It seems like nowadays everybody likes to steal my ideas. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of dead name digital trends for like stealing my segment where I answer questions the way that I do. But that's totally fine. I mean, they always say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, right? Well, here today I will show you how I actually have done it and continue to do it, which is putting you guys, the community, first by answering your questions. So, introduce questions for Q. We are going to continue like we have always done. And today we're going to be answering one of the big questions to start the video off, and that is simply put the S90D or the S95C on a closeout sale. Which one would you actually buy? Well, honestly, I would buy the S90D. I don't think you guys realize, like, I have done this for 9.5 years, and out of that time period, I have never seen a TV that draws me in immediately. I mean immediately, right? Like, pulls you in. You're locked in, right? I'm gaming, I'm playing shooters, I'm watching movies, TV shows, everything on this TV, but like engaged. And then you know it's a good TV when even my wife looks at it and she goes, whoa, like, damn, look at these colors. Like, that's when you know you've got a great TV. When other people who don't do what you do for a living look at that product and go, whoa, there's something special about it. I'm not joking when I say there's something special about it. See, when I had the S95C, that whoa moment, that oh my gosh moment, only happened in HDR. But HDR is not everywhere, and it's not every single content piece you can watch. Whether you're watching HDR or SDR, the S90D looks phenomenal. So that's what I would do over the S95C. So we're going to answer some more of the more modern and more recent questions, and I'm going to use my phone to be doing this, as I usually do. So we got a question here from Sean, who asks, hey man, I bought the Samsung S95D 65-inch here in Brazil. Our launch was a little bit later. Can you give me a little bit of the calibration that you did, or a little light about the calibration that you did? And he goes on to say, I couldn't find anything online, and then goes on to say, and you made an amazing job. You mentioned $5 to share the settings. How can I get them? So the calibration process that I did was basically referenced across, I would say, 5 types of media sources: gaming, movies, low bitrate content on streaming apps and services, PC gaming, and then home videos. And I like to wrap that all encompassing into one final thing, because that usually gives you a good idea of what the picture can perform. Then if you really want to be fancy and go a step above and beyond, then you can add photography in there too, and then you can look at certain points of lighting and shadows and details, and it gets really wild. Now, as far as the settings that I did, they were geared more towards, again, generality. Right, so when I do these settings, they're made more so that everybody can take advantage of them, instead of like the unique panel variants. Because make no mistake, every panel is going to run more red, green, or blue than another panel, but there are behaviors that kind of fall in line, and then you can kind of reach a point of parity between the panels. And so you have to study and analyze what that point of parity is, and then you can give those settings out on a broad scale to where most people will be generally happy. And again, this changes, by the way, versus when you go to different picture presets, whether you're in movie mode, cinema mode, filmmaker mode. I mean, they all behave differently. Eco mode. So you have to really look at this, and it takes a lot of time to do that. Now, how you get the settings is here on the channel. There's a join button, and when you hit join, then you go over to the playlist tab, and you'll have access to anything that says TV settings. You'll have all of the settings that I've ever made for every single TV. So if you find that you have other TVs in your home, it ends up being like you're not just paying for one calibration, like with a calibrator, right, where they a la carte you, and only what you pay for is what you get. With me, anything I've ever created, you have access to for the entire month. And then if you want to renew it, it's only $5. And I think that gives us a lot more value, I think, as AV enthusiasts and things like that, to be able to get beautiful, gorgeous image quality, but not have to break our arms and our legs and sell our newborn child to achieve that kind of thing, which is ultimately what I'm always after. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. So we got a question here from Gray Symphony Earth, and he goes ahead and asks, do you plan to review the Hisense H9N, or do you feel it'll be the same as the 8 series? To which I will simply respond, I don't have any plans to review the H9N. Now, unlike massive conglomerate companies, I'm an independent person doing this out of my own pocket. So I don't have $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 knocking about to just dump on television. I have children to raise. I have a life to live. You guys know how it is. And things are hard right now. And at the end of the day, I genuinely don't think most people will have $5,000, $6,000 to throw on a TV that literally next year will be discontinued. I think most people will probably stop, if they're lucky, around the $2,000 mark, maybe three. That's like tops. The mass majority of people will probably gravitate more towards, I'd say, anywhere from $500 to about $1,500. That's the average price point people usually will spend. And then on the lower end, then you'll obviously have everything in between. But would I review it? It's not that I'm opposed to reviewing it. I just don't really see a point, because companies like to cater to the rich and to the lifestyle of the rich, not realizing that we are in a time period where more people than ever are not rich, right? And it's really to the point where it's irritating, because it's like, look at everything you see. It's all about glorifying these 83-inch TVs, these 90-inch TVs, now these 110-inch TVs. Who is this for, though? I mean, think carefully. Is it for the everyday person who works a regular middle-class job and comes home and tries to pay bills, tries to fight the raising rates of insurance on their houses and everything in between? No. It's for the person that has no care in the world. And that's who these companies are targeting, because they know times are tough. So they don't care about the rest of us. And so what do? We get gypped and screwed over. Like, for example, Hisense did on the Hisense U8N. On the 55-inch version, for example, which again is a very popular size for a lot of people, again, who want to stay within $1,500, don't want to go up to $1,500 after taxes, things like that. Well, then you'd buy the U8N, or wait until crazy Black Friday sale or something like that, or closeout sale, end of the year sale, whatever. And it gets to the point where it's like, if you're middle class or poor, you don't matter. And if you're wealthy, well, then they cater to you hand over fist, because they know you'll have the money and just screw everybody that made these companies who they are. So I don't want to send the message that Hisense is doing the right thing by buying this product, reviewing this product, and saying, hey, let's glorify the 83-inch, the 110-inch, the 100-inch lifestyle, because most of us are not living that way. And it causes a lot of us to kind of hate our own lives. To which, by the way, if you're doing that to yourself, I just want to put this out there as a personal note for you, okay? Don't ever try to compete with anybody else. You might not be able to be the most competitive because of circumstances of life making it unfair. They were born with a platinum spoon in their mouth, for example. However, you can be the most creative in your field. You can be the most creative in your walk of life and do things that nobody else but you could uniquely do. For me on YouTube, that's just being brilliantly honest to a T. No matter what happens, no matter how much money I lose, don't care. I'm authentically myself, right? And with you, that is going to be something that you decide as well. So even though these companies glorify this like extravagant lifestyle, it's not always worth it, and I don't think it's something that you should fall into, because at the end of the day, you're just wasting your time chasing a dream that, honestly speaking, could never happen. Live your life now, get out and just enjoy. And again, that's life advice, but really it does tie into the TV world too, because these prices are higher than they have ever been, and you're not always necessarily getting the best thing that you would ever see for the next 20 years. And that's how it should be if you're paying $6,000 on a TV. But I can't say with all confidence that this is a 20-year TV. Now, last but not least, we're going to do a question here by S. Beasley. And S. Beasley asks the following: have you reviewed the LG G4 yet? Interesting that other reviewers who have the TV and reviewed it are getting stellar results, even though on paper the LG can't compete with QD-OLED in the lab when it comes to color volume and color gamut, etc. Etc. meaning there's more things it can't compete with. And then goes on to say, Digital Trends and OG COD reviewers said the new chip is allowing the G4 to compete and surpass the QD-OLEDs. It has to do with the new chipset examining each pixel no matter what's on the screen. Would love to see what you can do with it since you are a professional calibrator. Waiting ... To which I will just simply say this, okay? I'm not ever going to say that the LG G4 is a bad TV, because it's not. I promise you it's going to be a three-dimensional TV with a lot of pop and a lot of brightness, which is going to be great. Its color is going to be decent. However, for the price point and what's on the market today in 2024 opposed to 2018 even, it is subpar because it does not have quantum dots. I cannot stress the amount of excitement I feel turning on the S90D, for example, and playing my favorite games on it versus something like a WOLED. I don't know how else to say this, but that color difference is real. The whole point of watching a TV is what? picture quality, right? And if you're watching something and you're looking at it and you're seeing color that looks dated or from like an older year or older generation, then you're not getting what you paid for, at least when they charge these massive premiums saying, oh, we've made it brighter and it's better and more colorful. Listen, brighter on a WOLED, as I've mentioned, is not a good thing because you are going to dilute the color. And so even though we have test results that show that it's not going to compete on pretty much any real scale of color accuracy, color, anything, like color is going to be where it falls short. That's like, I kid you not, that's pretty much like 50% of the television viewing experience. Like, color is the first thing you see, right? Then maybe we could attribute brightness, right? Maybe black levels, right? It's a pretty massive portion. And then after that, smart features, right? That would make up the remaining 50%. But the biggest portion is the color. The first thing that grabs you when you walk into a retail store, the one thing that turns you off from TVs is when you look at it and it has dull, ugly color. And so for QD-OLED to be so far ahead of the G4 in that regard makes the G4 a non-rankable, because if you're competing against quantum.OLEDs, it's like asinine at this point. That's like a Honda Civic trying to compete with a Ferrari. It's never going to rank. You're talking about something that was made to perform versus something that doesn't have the specifications to perform. And that's what we're looking at. This is a specification issue. And the more people try to tell you that it's allowing it to surpass, no, it's not. It's not surpassing QD-OLED. And you can see it in their footage. Their footage is dull. Their footage lacks color. Their footage looks flat. And you can see these things. Pick up on the different... There's more color in the skies, and the sunsets, and the grass, and the animals. And people will try to attribute this to oversaturation of quantum dots. To which I will just say again, are we really trying to say that the Sony A95K, A95L, S95B, S90D, S95C, S95D, all of these QD-OLEDs, and the list goes on, are all oversaturated garbage, and the only TV manufacturer that can get OLED color correct and accurate is LG with WOLED, a technology that is old just because they don't have it? That's the thing. I guarantee you those same people saying that would change their tone when we start talking about QD-OLED, right? Like if LG says, you know what, we have a QD-OLED, those same people will be jumping out of their chair for it. I know I would, because I think that's game over for the entire industry. All LG really has to do is go, again, QD-OLED, and then we're in a point where we, again, have the best TV, I believe, on the planet. But that's just me. Because I think if they can mix micro lens array with a QD-OLED filter, I don't think anyone's going to be able to compete with LG does. Because they do a good job with motion processing, upscaling capabilities, the WebOS, and that type of thing is good. Features and whatnot, not bad. But again, it is a dated process. So I think, again, even though you're waiting for me to do my review, which, again, later on in the year I'll get around to it, I'm sure, it's not really something that you really need a review on because, again, it's a specification issue. One is a Ferrari and another is a Honda Civic. Not to say that the Honda Civic ain't a fun ride and it ain't a badass car when you, again, don't have the desire for a Ferrari, because, again, it boils down to what you as a person like, right? If you know that you like more washed out color at, that expense, then go for it, because maybe the other features or what LG does uniquely for LG makes up for it. But I can tell you personally, after doing this 9.5 years, it's not going to happen. Like, LG can't compete with what QD-OLED brings to the table because it's that big of a deal, and I've been talking about it since day one of QD-OLED. Like, literally, I flipped out when I first seen it. I was like, holy crap, we're doing QD-OLED now? And from that point forward, I've just been like one of the biggest fans of it because it truly is an innovation. And don't take my word for it. When you finally see it with your own games or movies or TV shows or family videos, then you'll see what I'm talking about. There is no comparison. And I own an LG OLED. And I own two WOLEDs right now, the Sony A90, or the A9G, or A8G, and then the LG C1. And I've seen multiple WOLEDs. They don't compete. And you can watch my comparisons in the comparison playlist to see just as much. Now you can inspire the next video on, again, questions for Q by asking questions. So if there's something you want to know, I will feature you on this. I usually do try to get around to everybody. So unlike most people that like to cherry pick only the good answers, I like to literally make a series about everybody. And even if it takes a year, your question pretty much will make it on this series provided it's obviously appropriate and the normal stuff that we just know to stick within. But obviously, getting your voice heard is the most important thing. So if you want to have your questions answered in this format and this way and style, let me know in the comments down below by asking a question. Thanks so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.